Hello, this is your host. Today we're going to be talking about the privacy of Bitcoin. So is Bitcoin private? It's obviously pseudonymous, right? Well, no, it's not even pseudonymous. Today, I'm going to show you exactly how public Bitcoin is. Bitcoin has been referred to as a revolutionary new currency because it was created to allow people to transact value without having to go through a financial institution like a bank. It offers a way for individuals to maintain more control over their own finances, allowing them to avoid some of the fees banks typically charge for processing transactions. But what many people don't realize is just how public Bitcoin is. People sometimes think that Bitcoin is anonymous, which means that you could use it to buy illegal things on the darknet and never get caught. But that's not true at all. In fact, Bitcoin is one of the most transparent payment networks in existence. Every single transaction is public, traceable, and forever recorded on a public ledger. There is absolutely nothing private about Bitcoin except for the fact that you don't have to give your name when you create a wallet. In this video, I am going to show you exactly what I mean by explaining how the Bitcoin network works and how everything is public and transparent. We will also explain why Bitcoin cannot be anonymous and how easy it is for anybody with even the slightest technical knowledge to trace the flow of funds through the entire Bitcoin network. Before we begin, make sure to like and subscribe so that you stay up to date with everything going on in the world of cryptocurrency. Alright, let's dive in. The first thing you should know is that there is no central authority controlling the Bitcoin network. It's completely decentralized, meaning that there is no company or government agency that maintains the network and keeps track of all the transactions. Instead, the network is maintained by thousands of individual computers around the world called nodes. Nodes are basically just computers that have downloaded the Bitcoin software and are running it. They keep track of all the transactions taking place on the network and verify them before broadcasting them to other nodes. When you make a Bitcoin transaction, it doesn't get sent directly to the person you're paying. Instead, it gets broadcast to the entire Bitcoin network. Every node in the network then verifies the transaction before adding it to the next block. Blocks are basically groups of transactions that are bundled together and verified by multiple nodes. Once a block is verified, it's added to the blockchain, which is a permanent record of all Bitcoin transactions. So where does this leave privacy? Well, since every Bitcoin transaction is broadcast to the entire network and verified by multiple nodes, there is no way to keep your transactions private. Even if you were to try and hide your transactions by mixing them with other people's transactions, which is called mixing, it wouldn't work. That's because every Bitcoin address is public and can be traced back to its original source. This means that anyone could trace your Bitcoin back to your original wallet and find out who you are. But you might be thinking, wait a minute, I thought Bitcoin addresses were just random strings of characters that are generated by wallets, and do UNT mean anything? Well, you'd be wrong again. Bitcoin addresses actually mean something. They represent a particular account in a ledger, and every account has a public key associated with it. A public key is just a long string of random characters that looks like this. You may notice that your wallet shows you a bunch of random strings of characters, and that S your public keys. Your public keys allow you to receive Bitcoin. If you share your public key with someone else, they can send you Bitcoin. Now what if you want to send Bitcoin to someone else? Well, in that case, you would need their public key. But what if you just wanted to see how much Bitcoin someone had in their wallet? Well, you don't even need their public key for that. All you need is their Bitcoin address. A Bitcoin address is just a specific human-readable version of a Bitcoin public key that ends in .btc. For example, this is my Bitcoin address. Anyone can go to this website and paste this into the address bar to check how much Bitcoin I have in my wallet. As you can see, I have 0.000367779 Bitcoin in my wallet right now, which is currently worth about $1.80. As you can see, Bitcoin is not private in the traditional sense. Every transaction is public and can be traced back to its original source. However, Bitcoin does offer a certain level of privacy compared to other payment methods. For example, when you pay with a credit card, your personal information is usually shared with the merchant. With Bitcoin, that's not the case. You can transact without giving away your personal information. So how do you remain anonymous when transacting with Bitcoin? The answer is simple. Don't use exchanges. Exchanges are centralized platforms that allow you to buy, sell, and trade Bitcoin. The problem is that exchanges require you to provide personal information in order to comply with anti-money laundering regulations. When you deposit money into an exchange, they ask you for your name, social security number, driver's license number, and even your banking information. So if you want to remain anonymous when transacting with Bitcoin, simply don't use an exchange. You can buy Bitcoin directly from another person, or you can mine it yourself. If you mine Bitcoin, you can then use your Bitcoin to purchase goods and services without ever having to give away your personal information. Of course, this requires you to have mining equipment and the technical know-how to set it up, but it is possible. Another option is to use a peer-to-peer marketplace, which allows you to buy Bitcoin from other people without having to use an exchange. That being said, there's still a good chance that your transactions will be public if you use these methods. That's because most mining pools and peer-to-peer marketplaces require you to use a Bitcoin wallet, which means that your transactions will be public. But if you really want to remain anonymous, you can always use a privacy coin like Monero. Privacy coins are specifically designed to offer greater privacy than Bitcoin. Monero, for example, uses a technology called ring signatures, which allows you to pool your transaction with other people's transactions. This makes it extremely difficult to trace the flow of funds. Another privacy coin is Zcash, which uses zero-knowledge proofs to allow you to transact without revealing your identity. So if you really want to remain anonymous when transacting with crypto, you should consider using a privacy coin instead of Bitcoin. Now I want to talk about something called blockchain analysis. Blockchain analysis is the process of examining the public blockchain to identify trends and patterns. This can be done for a variety of purposes, such as tracking the flow of funds, identifying market manipulation, or even predicting future price movements. Blockchain analytics firms collect data from the blockchain and then sell it to businesses and governments. These businesses and governments then use the data to make decisions about how to best protect themselves from fraud, or even how to prosecute criminals. For example, blockchain analytics firms can track the flow of funds to identify money laundering. Money laundering is the process of concealing the origins of illegally obtained funds. By tracking the flow of funds, blockchain analytics firms can identify accounts that are being used to launder money and alert the authorities. Governments, law enforcement agencies, and even businesses use blockchain analytics to track criminals down. For example, the FBI used blockchain analytics to track down the Silk Road criminals. The Silk Road was an illegal website that allowed people to buy and sell drugs using Bitcoin. When the website was shut down, the FBI used blockchain analytics to track down and arrest the criminals behind it. So as you can see, Bitcoin is not private in the traditional sense. Every transaction is public and can be traced back to its original source. However, Bitcoin does offer a certain level of privacy compared to other payment methods. If you want to remain anonymous, simply don't use an exchange. You can buy Bitcoin directly from another person, or you can mine it yourself and then use your Bitcoin to purchase goods and services without ever having to give away your personal information. So what do you think? Does this change the way you view Bitcoin? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to stay up to date on all things crypto. Thanks for watching.